Hey guys, look at this. Beef tips and rice. Now, this takes beef tips and rice right up to a whole new level. Let's add a little bit of beauty, whole lot of flavor. Wait till you try this one. You're gonna be blown away. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back. Hey, this is Texas Cooking Today, and today I'm going to be honoring the request of another YouTuber. Now, there's a YouTuber that wrote to me on one of my videos and asked me if I would produce some beef tips and rice. And I thought, you know, that's a very humble dish, and I think it would be wonderful for me to put out something like that. So I decided, hey, what the heck? This weekend, I'll make beef tips and rice. So just a couple of days ago, there's a YouTuber, his name is Failure to Communicate. He asked me to go ahead and produce this wonderful video, and that's what I'm going to do. So there you go, you have your shout out. Come over this way. Let's take a look at these fantastic ingredients that we have, and let's make this fantastic tasting and very humble and explosively delicious dish. Come on over. Get into all of our ingredients, let's go over the quantities. About 2 pounds of beef, 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce. We're going to be using about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of black pepper, and about the same on our salt. And on our mushrooms here, I didn't really get a weight on these, but what I have is just about 2 fistfuls, about that much in bulk. So I didn't even weigh this. I just grabbed them. I said, that looks about right for 2 pounds. 1 onion. You don't have to have a big onion for this, and you don't have to have a lot of onion. This is added for flavor, and so is the garlic, okay? We're going to be putting in anywhere around 2 to 3 tablespoons of minced garlic. As far as the wine, enough wine to completely cover it. So basically the better part of a bottle of wine. That's going to be our base liquid for this. And this is braising. Braising is when you're cooking in liquid. The temperatures are always low, so 250 degrees in liquid, bam, you're braising. You can do that in the oven, you can do it in a crock pot. This is a great crock pot dish. Let's get on with processing our beef. Now, of course, you know the name of the dish is beef tips and rice. And what is a beef tip? Well, you know, it probably originated with somebody wanting to use up remnants of meat, leftover bits and pieces. However, the way we do it these days is we simply take some beef and cut it into portions that'll make a nice bite size, okay? It doesn't have to be big, but don't make it too small either. So what we had there was, you know, roughly 2 pounds of beef, and then of course I've extracted a few ounces here, but that's not a big deal. Roughly that's what you're looking for. Okay, let's go ahead and prepare our vegetables for this dish. Now, as we always like to teach on this show, it is the setup method that we use. Now, setup method, what that is a simple method of preparing ingredients before cooking. So everything is all chopped, set up, ready to go. So when you start cooking, you can focus strictly on that, and you're not worried about having to cut something or whatever, when you need to be focused on making sure something doesn't burn. Now, we're going to simply quarter this. Let me show you an easy way of doing that. You've seen me remove the ends in that paper, okay? When you're holding that knife, pinch it right back here, okay? Wrap your fingers around the blade and choke up on that handle a little bit, okay? This gives you better blade control so the knife doesn't rock like this too easily. On a knife that's wide this way, that is a real problem, so you want to be careful with it. When you're using your fingers around food in a knife, curl the fingertips. Don't hold your food like this. Curl them under so that this part of the knuckle is vertical. That way it can slide against the side of the knife. Isn't that practical. The thumb holds the back of the food. Okay, so this is called the crab technique, and it works like a charm. See how the fingers are curled under? I can't cut my fingertips when they're curled under. The thumb is behind. And to quarter this, all I have to do now is make some simple cross cuts. How easy is that? Huh? Now these are going to cook down almost to nothing. They're just going to be, they'll be in there, but they're not going to be a substantial, visible portion of what this dish is about. For these mushrooms, simple enough. We're just going to be simply removing the bottom of that stem and making some simple cross cuts. If you want to remove that stem, just pop it sideways. There you go. You got just the cap. There we are. Beautifully sliced up mushroom, ready to go in that dish. The next thing, we're going to be doing a little bit of garlic. Give that clove a little light twist, not hard enough to break it, but hard enough to flex the paper. And what that does is it just breaks it free from the clove. Okay, there's that scab on the end. Little twist. Boom, there we go. There you have it, and that's a wonderful mince. You'll notice what I have here is a large pot. It isn't my largest stock pot, however, it is very, very sizable saucepan, big one. And you want to make sure that your saucepan doesn't is large enough so that when all of the meat is in it, it doesn't fill it more than halfway. If it does, your pan is a bit small, you need to go a little bit bigger, okay? So we don't want the meat to come up past the halfway point once it's completely full of it, okay? Because we're also going to be adding in some other ingredients, remember? When we're going to start this, I have more beef here than I can sear in a pan at one time. If I wanted to, I could do this in different pans, but frankly, I want a build-up crust in the bottom of this. That build-up crust is what we in cooking call a fond, and that fond is the development of complex, harmonious flavors. Okay, so it makes this dish wonderfully good. Now, all of the brown that we're going to cook onto the beef is going to end up washing back off. That doesn't hurt anything because it's in the pot where we want the flavor. We're going to take some of this meat and get started searing it. I will not do all of this at once, and that's why I have the other bowl for. We have another bowl back here for the meat when it's done. Oh my God, that smells good. Oh. I love the smell of searing beef. Oh, it smells so good. All right, guys, we have now finished searing our beef. And I'm getting exactly what I was telling you about. You see that brown in the bottom? That's what we're wanting, okay? We also have it on our meat. The next step of this, a little bit more oil. I'm going to put in that onion. We're going to pan sear it off until it's browning on the edges. That won't take long. So now I have two odors in the air. This beautiful smell of pan-seared beef, which is just, that's heavenly. That's one of my favorites. But now the release of this onion that's caramelizing. Oh, and the smell that onions make when they do that. It reminds me of when I make French onion soup. I do much the same thing. Now, I'm not trying to cook these down till they're soft or anything. I'm simply trying to get them brown on the edges, extract some of that flavor, darken the fond on the bottom of the pan, and get busy cooking this meal. What I like to do, this sleeve up here doesn't really do anything for you. It doesn't catch wine or anything like that, and it's always a pain in the rear. Just remove it. Take your knife and get it off of there. We're done with that, huh? Use this type of bottle opener. They're great. Shove that corkscrew down in there and pull down on this with this lever sitting on the back of your hand, so you get pressure on the cork, and that corkscrew goes into it easily at that point, you see? From there, finish running the corkscrew in, bring it out, and up. There we have it. The edges of the onions, getting that nice dark color on them. And that's just perfect. That's what I'm wanting right there. Now it's time for us to break loose some of that fond. Ha ha ha! Yeah! Don't worry, all of that's going to wash off the bottom as we continue to cook. Let's go ahead and get our beef in there. All that juice, yummy. Braising. What is braising? Braising is slow cooking in liquid. We've mentioned this, right? That means we need liquid. Yummy. Okay, we don't have to completely cover that meat, but you want the tips of the beef tips sticking out just a little. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? The liquid's already turning brown. Let's add in that Worcestershire sauce. Oh, yeah, flavor. I want about a teaspoon of salt to begin with, and about a teaspoon of black pepper. It's down into the oven. Oh, hang on. I forgot one important ingredient. We cut up a bunch of garlic. Let's get that down in there. There we go. Yes. Now guess what, guys? This part of the cooking is really easy. You kind of go and kick back and relax. The first thing I'm going to do is on the stove, I'm going to bring it up to a boil. And what that does is it reduces the amount of time I'm going to have it either in a crock pot or in the oven. The mushrooms will not go in there until about the last hour of cooking. Okay, because I don't want them to just turn into mush on me. I don't want mushroom, okay? I want some nice, firm, beautiful mushrooms that look beautiful in the sauce, okay? They need to stand out. Now, if you've never cooked with red wine in this way, you've missed out. And this is one of the ways that a famous French dish is made, and it's called beef bourguignon. And believe me, it is mind-blowingly delicious. The rich, complex flavors, and this has very much of those same flavors in it. All right, it looks like that we are up to temperature. So I'm going to take this beautiful darling, turn off that stove, and put it right down in here in the oven. Well, that's it. In the oven, ready to go. Now this is my favorite part about braising, going and watching a movie. The rest of the stuff, don't worry about it. The rice we cook at the end, the mushrooms go in towards the end of cooking. That's hours from now, okay? This is a slow dish, remember? It's all about taking your time. See you on the other side. Hey guys, I've just pulled this out of the oven. I put a lid on it over the last hour. The first 2 hours I had it sitting open, and that was to let it reduce a little bit, let the sauce thicken some, and for it to become something greater than it already is. I'm going to take the little bit of wine that's left over here. We're just going to pour it down to a measuring cup that's almost, not quite, but almost a half a cup. And I'm going to add some water. This time I chose cornstarch. So what I've done, we've added the wine and a little water to this pot right here. And I'm going to take a couple of heaping spoons, and that's probably somewhere between 3 and 4 tablespoons of starch, somewhere. And I'm just going to dissolve it in. Now be patient with this. It will all dissolve. So I'm going to pour this right down in here. Give it a bit of a stir. It's already starting to thicken just a little. Remember those mushrooms? Yay! Okay, let's get them down in there now. So this has been cooking for 3 hours. Guess what? Your piece of meat may take more or less time. Okay, it could be either way. You never know. I tasted this and it was wanting, okay? It needed a little bit of help. So we're gonna add in just a little bit of salt. Oh yeah, not a whole lot. About 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon. We're gonna add in some more of that Worcestershire sauce. Let me give this a good shake. This stuff does settle, so make sure you shake it really well. I'm gonna put in, roughly 3 tablespoons that was. I'm gonna put this back into the oven, and it's gonna be roughly, another 30 minutes in there. And that's gonna let those mushrooms cook in and become wonderful. Yet they're still gonna be firm enough and light enough to stand out. Plenty of extra pepper there. Yummy. Now while this is back in the oven, we're also gonna start the rice. I have a pan with 2 tablespoons of butter in the bottom of it. It's beginning to melt a little bit, sitting on the range here. I want to add just a little pinch of salt to this. Not a big deal. Put some flame underneath it. I'm going to want a medium-high flame. And I'm going to want 2 cups of hot water in that. There we go, 2 cups hot water. As soon as this comes to a boil, my rice goes in there. Now guys, my water is just now coming up to a boil, and I'm going to take this basmati and pour it in here. What I have was 1 cup of basmati rice there, and that's 2 cups of water. And that's sort of a universal measurement when it comes to rice, okay? Now the real trick on cooking rice, put the rice in there after the water comes to a boil, bring it back to a boil, reduce it to a simmer and cover, and that's all there is to it. Like I said, basmati is usually 12 minutes on the cook, sometimes as long as 15, but usually about 12. We'll cover it, reduce my flame to low. Let's face it, brown and white, that's not, well, completely appetizing. Okay? Let's be real about this, okay? So, what we want to do is we want to introduce some color in addition to our brown and white. Now, the brown and white are the star of the show, right? They really are. These 2 things belong next to each other. And don't worry about what we get on the edge of the plate. That gets cleaned up here in just a little bit. The reason I spend time on plating like this is because if the food looks ugly, it doesn't make it appetizing. Let's dress this little guy up. And the first thing I want, like I said before, I want some color. And I went ahead and I sliced up this wonderful little chili here. There we go. Doesn't hurt. Put a few on top. Like I said, color. How about a little bit of these little grape tomatoes? Is it going to hurt to put some of those up in here? I don't think it will. You know, beef tips and rice doesn't have to be brown and white, right? It can be beautiful and bright and full of color. Let's take a little bit of green and put around on that. Now I'm using cilantro. If you would like, just go on with some parsley, okay? Get some color in that dish. That's part of the beauty of cooking. It's artistry, not just for the tongue, not for the palate, but also for the eyes. Okay, there we go. Hey, you know, the neat thing about braising is there's no real effort in it, is there? Cook it all up, put it in a pot, let it heat all day. Just give it time, let it turn mellow. Look at this. The wonderful fruits of my labor. Oh, now this is beautiful. This is gorgeous. This is exactly what I think of when someone says beef tips and rice. I want something that is just filled with gravy. Now I'm gonna, with my fork, bite one of those big pieces in half. Look at that, it just fell apart. This dark, complex, harmony of flavors. Oh man, I'm going to be going crazy about this dish in a little while because the flavors are explosive. It is so good, so rich, so full-bodied. The perfect meal going into a good fall. So I'll tell you what, give this one a try. You're going to love this dish. And I would like to say thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking today. Hey, to my subscribers, to you guys, thank you. Thank you very much for subscribing. Cheers to you. And you folks, well, folks, have a good day. Goodbye. Hey guys, thank you for watching Texas Cooking today. Do appreciate it. If you would, please subscribe. If you like this, just click like down there, and if you would, I would really appreciate it if you add me to your favorites. Thank you.